teachers have a very high turnover rate, and a former teacher by the name of Richard Ingersoll wanted to do a study, or a survey I should say, to figure out all the different reasons why teachers decide that they want to quit their jobs. Now, he is now a Ph.D. in sociology, and he says that he loved teaching, but he just couldn't take it anymore. He says that there was a lack of respect that teachers got, and he felt like he needed to do something that was more fulfilling, something where he had more control and more intellectual input, which is ironic because as a teacher you should have a great deal of intellectual input. But before we get to what his findings are, look at this number. It's kind of incredible. Anywhere between 40 and 50% of teachers will leave the classroom within their first 5 years. Turnover in teaching is about 4% higher than other professions. And by the way, a significant amount of teachers actually quit within the first year of their careers. So it kind of brings up this really big problem because our education system right now, as you guys know, is failing. And one thing that people constantly blame it for is the teachers. The teachers aren't doing enough. They need to work harder. It's because, you know, they're tenured. It's because they have the unions backing them up. They're just lazy. But when you really look into how little they make and how little respect they get, you kind of start to see that maybe the teachers are not the real problem behind our failing education system.
There's no, I don't. I mean, I assume I'm speaking mostly to conservatives here. They're not. They never were.
Exactly.
That's not the issue.
And I don't think even the conservatives think that the teachers are. They think the teachers' unions are.
Right.
So I don't think
teachers' union, which is made up of teachers.
Well, no, I know, but it's not the. It's, in other words, I don't think their issue is with the rank and file. It's how they're organized and the demands that they make, and the fact that they don't. That there is not individual accountability for teachers because they're so protected by unions. Now, listen, I'm with you, so I'm not. I'm just saying that I think they're.
I think you're giving them too much credit. I think that they don't like them because they're organized, and because they're organized, they don't like them. They don't like anybody
I think
organized.
that they don't like anybody. Yeah, but I think that especially with teachers, and listen, I think like so many unions, maybe some of these unions have gone too far, but they want to eradicate the unions.
You've heard the way, the disparaging way, not just about the unions, that they talk about public school teachers, public education.
Public education.
Yeah, and they're going to hide.
They want to privatize it.
Right, I mean, they're going to hide behind the veil. I'm talking about the administrators and the teachers' unions and everything, but except the teachers are the main people you're talking about when you talk about public education.
But it's also, you know, this is probably a I actually didn't read this article, but it's probably a well-written, deep, thoughtful article. But it says, why do teachers quit? You could answer it in a second. It's because their starting salaries are probably between $30,000 and $40,000 a year, which isn't even enough to live and pay back the student loans that they have for getting to become teachers in the first place.
Okay, so you brought up really great points, and you're right, you didn't have to read the article because that's exactly the situation. It turns out that, and you guys probably already know this, the starting salary for a teacher in the U.S. is about $35,672.
Well, you said between 30 and 40 wasn't quite right.
No, I was wrong.
Really between 35 and 36.
Yeah, it was between 35 and 36.
And about 40% of teachers who pursue undergraduate degrees in teaching never even enter the classroom at all. And I think part of the reason for that is because, you know, the starting salary is a deterrent. I mean, you're taking out these loans to get the education, and as you guys know at this point, if you go to a prestigious university, you could easily take out more than $100,000 in student loan debt. And then what? You're going to go work for $35,000? How are you going to make enough money
for 3,500 years to pay back your loan?
It would be impossible to pay off that student loan debt. But I think the lack of respect is what really gets under their skin, because, you know, you have administrators, which, by the way, a lot of teachers don't want to remain teachers. They want to work their way up to an administrator where there's a decent amount of money to make. But oftentimes, you know, they just don't even want to deal with it anymore. It's such a thankless job. Ben, did you want to jump in?
You know, this one, he quotes a teacher here, this guy, Richard Ingersoll, who wrote the piece. We are held up to a really high standard for everything, this 26-year-old teacher at a public school in Kansas. It stems from the sense that teachers aren't real people, and the only thing that came close to making me stay was the kids. I think that goes to the sense that, again, they get blamed for everything, that they're on the front lines. Like, again, you know, you're not doing it when you're complaining about the teachers, you know. Imagine that nobody gets into teaching for the money. They get into it. No one is like, holy shit, I trained to be a teacher and they only pay me $33,000 a year. I'm stunned. I thought I'd make $100,000.
Right.
You know, so you get into it because you want to teach, because you want to sort of share wisdom and mold young minds.
But we've gotten to a point, as Anna just said, where student loan debt is so out of control that, you know, even at that point where people had traditionally said, I'm getting into this because I want to teach, and of course people will do that forever, it's gotten even worse because of the money.
Yeah, no, there's no question. Well, first of all, back when it wasn't totally because of the money, again, and I think it's in this article, women got into teaching because that's a job that women did before they got married. Like that's what you did. Yeah. You did it temporarily, so that's why a lot of them left. And men did it until they became principals.
Yep.
Like they got into administration. So, and now that's changed a little bit, but we don't pay it. We need to pay teachers a lot more money, but we're never going to do it.
It kind of shows you what our priorities are, too. I mean, you have, let's say, newscasters, right? You have newscasters that'll make hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars a year doing what they do. And yes, it's important to inform the public, but how did those newscasters get informed?
Well, they usually themselves work for big companies that have a lot of money. They're generating a lot of advertising revenue.
Exactly.
So it's a different model than a school is, which is publicly funded in most cases. And
it is, but if you look at our federal government or the way we fund education through property taxes, which is a terrible idea, because if you live in a poor area with low property value, then all of a sudden you're not going to have the same amount of money as you would if you were in Beverly Hills, for instance, for the schools in Beverly Hills where the property values are much higher. There needs to be more funding for education. On a federal level, I mean, we spend so much on defense. Why not take more of that money and funnel it into our education system? That way teachers can get paid more and there's more of an incentive to stay there and be enthusiastic about your job.
It's one of the arguments for a lottery too, is that they give that money proportionally opposite. So the lottery money of $100 comes in, it goes to the areas that need it most, and then in diminishing numbers goes to the other areas that are getting the most property tax money.
I mean, I covered education for 2 years in Charleston every day. And
are we going to hear the butter knife story again?
Yeah, and this kid brought a butter knife to school, and they expelled him. And we got to make, zero tolerance has got to go. You'd go to school in a nice part of town, same school district, nice part of town, and I just was always struck, and I've told the story before, but there was no lighting at the shitty schools. Like, the hallways were dark. Not pitch black, but I mean, depressing. Like, just not where you want to be, certainly not where you'd want your kid to be learning. And you'd think, how is this money getting spent? Can we just redo this so it's frickin' bright and has cute pictures on the wall so they feel happy to be in this place instead of like kind of prison-y around some corners where you're like, it's just a downer.
Yep.
And the schools would be 4 miles apart, but one neighborhood would be lousy and mostly minority, and the other place would be much nicer.